This building has some wild stories. Some say it has a hidden escape route, a tunnel leading straight to the harbour for executives to flee in an emergency. Others believe that the whole building was designed to be dismantled and moved if political tensions ever escalated. To verify this, I managed to speak to someone who actually helped build that building and a few others who actually worked inside this building. And boy, do I have some interesting stories to tell you. Like, did you know that 3 people died building this? And the architect originally wanted the building to look like this. There were even plans to demolish all this land to create a public plaza that reached out to the harbour. In this video, I'm going to uncover the myths, the lost designs, and the stories that no one's ever told. Until now. This building is of course the Hong Kong Shanghai Bank. At the time of completion, this building was the most expensive building ever built. It was supposed to be the best bank building in the world. And obviously no bank is complete without a private harbour tunnel. And the truth is that this tunnel does exist, but not for escaping. It was actually built to bring in seawater from the harbour to help cool the building. The bank actually approached nearby buildings to share this tunnel, but nobody was interested. So it wasn't exactly a secret. And the idea that this building was designed to be moved, well, that's a myth. The building's modular design might have made the deconstruction of this building a bit easier, but ultimately it just wouldn't be financially feasible. They would have been better off building a brand new building. And that's exactly what they did. When the bank relocated its headquarters to London, they left this building here and they built this one in London. And I'm kind of glad that this building isn't moving anywhere because there were a lot of sacrifices made for this building. And I'm not just talking about the amount of resources and hours put into making this building. I was told that there were 3 people that lost their lives working on this building. At one point, a fire broke out in the construction site. And when an engineer went to investigate the fire, he fell down the lift shaft. And another person died trying to jump from one beam to another. And the third person, he got electrocuted inside a service riser. Looking at some of these construction photos, you can tell that work health safety standards back then weren't as high. And I got to speak to someone who actually worked on the construction site of this building. And he shared these photos with me. He told me that the site was always crowded and the site facilities were a bit primitive in that era. He told me a funny story about getting complaints from the neighboring bank because one of the construction workers exposed themselves while they were peeing on site. That person got a warning letter. Okay, so what I really want to show you guys is all the lost designs for this building and what could have even been a more striking design and amazing public space. At the beginning of this project, there was a wish list of items such as a swimming pool, auditorium, basketball, gymnasium, and even apartments. And there was actually an apartment. The chairman's apartment was located at the top of the building, and you can bet it was luxurious. But speaking to some of the people that currently work here, I was told that that doesn't exist anymore. And this ground floor public plaza you see here, it was actually meant to be all made of glass. Having a transparent floor meant that you could introduce natural light into the basement of the building. The idea was to reflect light in from the Sunscopp and down into the atrium through to the basement. But this idea was cancelled due to budgetary reasons. There was also this cool design for the ceiling called the Gullwing Ceiling. They turned the entire ceiling into modules of reflective surfaces into a geometrical shape to harness the total light output of the fluorescent tubes with minimum glare. There were many other designs, but I'm going to skip to my favorite design. The Chevron Scheme. The main elements of the chevron structures are the many delicate and slim tapered masts and the rapid rhythm of V-shaped tension members, and much more elegant structure with a striking facade. They were seriously considering this structure and even built a prototype in their office just to see how it would feel like to have a diagonal column in the middle of the office. Here you can see the ground floor lobby was much more larger. The intention was to make the space a part of the statue square. Statue Square was the square directly across the street from the building. They had big plans for this place. The idea was to have a pedestrian-friendly public plaza that stretched out towards the harbour, bridging over the various roads. Various schemes were drawn up to include commercial offerings. It included spaces for a shopping mall, exhibition space, and an open-air auditorium. It provided a public walkway that took you from the bank all the way to the ferry terminal. But this never happened, and instead we are stuck with this old car park and a bit of wasted land right next to the harbour. But enough of these unrealized designs. Let's look at what actually got built. Because after my first video about this building, I was very fortunate to get in contact with a few people who actually work inside this building. Not only did they tell me how it actually feels to work in there, but I managed to get some exclusive footage of what it looks like inside. I also went for the HSBC and Foster's online archives and found an absolute treasure trove of photos from back in the 70s. So we can compare how it used to look like when it first opened to how the building is now. One of the coolest spaces in this office is of course the double height spaces in the middle of the tower and their outdoor terraces. These outdoor terraces were originally designed to address a unique Hong Kong fire regulation. In Hong Kong, there is a requirement to incorporate these refugee floors throughout the tower in the event of a fire evacuation. Most towers in the city would locate their plant rooms on these floors, but Foster's used these large spaces as communal areas. They house lunch rooms, table tennis, board rooms, conference facilities, executive dinings. These spaces were also used as lift lobbies. Bosses wanted to encourage staff to get off these floors and then travel to their destination floor via escalators. However, I found out that not everyone liked working in these spaces. Someone told me that working in these high ceiling spaces felt like an exam hall, but with a marketplace atmosphere. And you can be sure that the way that these furniture laid out was reviewed by a feng shui master. They even had to go to rearrange the architect's office when they were working on this project, except for the directions of where the cranes faced. In my last video, some of you didn't trust me and still believed that cranes were specifically aimed at the Bank of China to negate the bad feng shui coming from that building. Here are some of the photos of the tower built before the Bank of China existed. The cranes were always there. They are actually there in that position to help maintenance staff to reach the hard to access areas of that building. Because I don't know if you ever noticed, at night when all the lights are on, there are a few floors where the lights are never on. That's because they never built that section of the tower. Why? Well, they maxed out on the maximum floor area that the planning laws would allow them to build. So you will see there is a hole in the side of the building compared to the other side. It was envisaged that should the city's planning regulations were ever to be relaxed, the eastern end could slot in some extra floors, just like how they slotted in the plant room risers and the toilets to the side of the building. This building in Tokyo had a similar concept, but I'm not sure if they ever had intended the design of the toilets to be able to slot it out and replaced. Because those really cool stainless steel designed bathrooms I showed you in my last video just got renovated internally, and they completely removed all the stainless steel. I had a previous staff member tell me that he hated those old bathrooms. During the time that he was there, the building was already 30 years old, hence the toilets had suffered from heavy wear and tear. A lot of things weren't working properly by then. But what he found to be the worst was that the male toilets had no urinals. They intentionally designed the building so that the male toilets can be changed to female toilets at any time. And back then, a lot of men did not have reasonable aim. So you can imagine that the sanitary conditions of those toilets were horrible. And that Sunscopp at the side of the building, a lot of people who worked in that building didn't even know about it. But there's one person in the comments of my last video, he suggested that they stop using the Sunscopp because it got too hot inside the building. Comment below if you recognize who this person is. Just real quick, the last time I created a video like this was about a year ago, and that's far too long. I want to make more videos and better videos. To help me do that, you can either buy one of these purses that I just made, or you could directly donate to this channel via the button below. Now back to the video. Okay, so I've spoken enough about the building, but there was one last thing I'd like to talk about, and it's the grand opening ceremony they had for this building. The scale of this operation was absolutely unheard of, at least for this bank building. People from all around the world came, some very important people. There were so many people, they managed to even shut down this road. I mean, who does that? They couldn't fit everyone, so they arranged for all the HSBC staff and their families to go celebrate at two separate racecourses, Happy Valley and Sha Tin. 20,000 staff and their families were invited. They had to reroute trains to ensure there were enough carriages. They then broadcasted the event from the main building to the two racecourses. They had famous celebrities come and perform and give away gifts. I mean, this building was such a big deal. It was drawn on the dollar bills. It's still there today. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for all your support and for everyone who shared their insights on this building. I'd love to do this again. So comment below which building you want to see next. And see you in the next one.